Hey guys, welcome back to another movie review. Today we will be looking at the Amazing Spider-Man. As always, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this, and leave a comment down below for who your favorite Spidey is. At the end of the video, I'll tell you what mine is. So, for a brief summary and my score for the movie, it's a pretty interesting take on Spider-Man, especially comparing it where and when it came out. This movie came out about 10 years after the first Spider-Man movie came out, or I guess the second Spider-Man movie came out, and all of its success. And they changed quite a bit of Spider-Man's personality and things like that, made it a little bit more comic book accurate, which I can truly appreciate, as well as making it a more modern look into the character. They do a lot of different things that Spider-Man does in the comics, like creating his own web fluid, and they kind of subverted it towards this weird subplot of his dad being a scientist, which I don't know if any other Spider-Man live-action film has done that. I know that for a fact Toby Maguire never even talked about his parents at all, let alone that his parents had some sort of weird direct influence into him becoming Spider-Man. Another thing that is very different in this movie in comparison to the Toby Maguire Spider-Man, there is no Mary Jane or MJ or Michelle or whatever. It is Gwen Stacy, which kind of was a pretty unique take, mainly because Mary Jane is and has been Spider-Man's like main love interest in comics and on the screen, which I thought was a very unique and good way to take it. I have a sinking suspicion that there was supposed to be 3 Spider-Men, and in the third one he would meet Mary Jane, but that didn't happen. Anyways, to continue what I was saying, summing up the plot is kind of similar to the first Spider-Man with Toby Maguire when it comes to its story. Like, if we just take all of everything kind of at face value, you've got Peter Parker getting his powers, letting somebody go to kill his uncle. He then goes on a hunting spree to try and find the killer. But what's different in Andrew Garfield's one is he never actually finds him, which I like. I like that. Then he somehow gets the interest of a super famous scientist dude.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
He helps Science Dude to a certain degree. Science Dude goes crazy and starts killing a bunch of people. And somehow, or in some way, Spider-Man gets his girlfriend involved in this whole shabacle. The bad guy, mad scientist, kidnaps and or pursues the love interest in this situation. Spider-Man saves the day, and everybody loves Spider-Man. Aside from J. Jonah Jameson, which they didn't include in the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, which is sad. Because it would have been great if that was a constant in all 3 universes, having that actor play J. Jonah Jameson. Like, he is just like a catalyst in every universe. He is J. Jonah Jameson. That would have been great. Which, I think that's a brief enough summary of the story, and will lead me to giving the score for this movie, and I'll explain why I gave that score. My score for this movie is 8.5 out of 10. There are some really, really good moments, and by movie moments, I'm meaning cinematically, it is a very beautiful movie. Arguably, including Tom Holland's, I think it is honestly the most beautiful Spider-Man movie. There's some really good shots in both Tom Holland's and Toby Maguire's, but this one is just really juicy. Like, the scenes really draw you in and or are beautiful in the lighting and the landscape, and it feels good to watch that movie. There are a couple of other really good points that I like about this movie, and it's the fact that even though I disagree with what they did with Peter Parker's character to a certain degree, and I'll get into that later, he is the most accurate depiction of Spider-Man. Cocky, making jokes, kind of funny, quirky, hopping all over the fucking place, crawling all over fuckers. Like, That is verbatim what I thought Spider-Man was like in the comics. And they do a masterful job of showing that. I also feel like PlayStation got great inspiration from this movie and its swinging, because the swinging scenes feel very similar, specifically the crane scene towards the end, feel very similar to the PlayStation game. Another really, really good scene that I don't see a lot of people talking about is the scene where Flash Thompson comforts Peter Parker after his uncle dies. And I think that scene is very, very important and a very good show of Flash Thompson's character. And I feel like they were planning on doing more with him in the third movie, because if you're not aware, Flash Thompson actually is one of the people who has the Venom suit and actually becomes Venom for a long while in the comics and the animated series. And I feel like they were going that route but didn't end up sealing the deal when it comes to the higher ups in the company. Flash's apology and connection to Peter really, in my mind, shows that people make bad decisions, but that doesn't make them bad people, which I think directly influences Peter's whole identity of, you know, he rarely kills people and like legitimately tries his best to make jokes and have fun with the bad guys, because he understands that a lot of the times bad people or bad guys are in bad situations because of bad choices, not because they're bad. It's a lot of bad. But I think this directly influences why he helps Dr. Connors instead of just trying to fight him. And I think that scene is very important, and I'm really glad that they did that. It also is just a super heartfelt scene to have the moment where a bully recognizes that you are going through too much, and instead of trying to antagonize you or bully you, they try and comfort you. And the only way that they know how, by saying sorry.
Feels better, right? Look, your uncle died. I'm sorry. I get it. I'm sorry. Okay.
It is a beautiful scene. I really, really like it. And this kind of leads me to my next point. Not really, but it kind of does. My next point being that Peter Parker in the movie is less like Peter Parker than I remember him being. And it could be because when I was growing up, the only movies that I really had access to were Toby Maguire, and he's like super awkward Peter Parker. But they did an interesting thing where they made Peter Parker, yes, he's getting bullied, he's kind of low on the food chain when it comes to like the school politics, but he's like the cool skater kid that kind of gets a lot of looks from a lot of different girls, kind of a thing. And what I like that they did is the romance between Gwen and Peter is super awkward. It's kind of funny and cringy to watch. And until I got to that point in my relationship with my girlfriend, I would have honestly said, wow, that's super unrealistic. But my girlfriend and I, we were friends before we started dating, and when I started asking her out or trying to pursue her in a romantic way, it literally was that super awkward, kind of cringy, you know, not really knowing how this works kind of thing. It was like looking in a mirror. It was funny. I really enjoyed that part. It was great.
I don't know, or we could do something else, or we could, if you don't, I mean, like, we could,
Yeah.
yeah?
Yeah, either one.
Really?
The other part of the movie that I think they did beautifully, which I mentioned briefly in my summary, was the cinematography. It is a beautiful movie. Like, they have so many poster scenes that you could just take a picture of it, create as a poster or a background, and just for the rest of your life never be saddened by looking at it. Like, so many shots in the movies in this movie are really, really good. And the lighting and the way that they do certain shots, like the scene where Peter is on a big cluster of webs like a spider web was crazy. Like, I never thought of that as a way to look for something. It was such an interesting take on the character and on the cinematography of the movie. I also feel like they portrayed New Yorkers very well, because there's something that I've noticed through the history of New York, that when New York is in trouble, they come together. Like that, throughout history, you can see that as a common factor in the way that New York is and often portrayed, is New Yorkers stick together. And I really liked how Peter saving that crane operator's son directly helped the entire city, because you never leave somebody behind, kind of a thing. And that was some really beautiful storytelling from a cinematography point of view. Like, yes, you could hear the crane operators all talking to each other, but it was the view of the cranes coming together and lining up for him that really sealed the deal for me. Like, it was such a good scene. This scene, like, leads up to the big climax. It's such a good scene. And in the big climax, Gwen's dad, who's like the fucking... Her dad's the chief of police. He goes and he helps Peter fight the lizard, aka Dr. Connors. He gets stabbed through the abdomen by the doctor, and Peter goes over there and watches him die. And he makes a promise to Mr. Stacy, Gwen's dad, and he promises that he will stop trying to pursue his daughter, because Gwen Stacy's dad realizes that he's going to make a lot of enemies and he's going to put her directly in danger. And so he makes a promise that he won't pursue her in order to keep her safe, kind of a thing. And the movie ends very, very contradictory to how all three Toby Maguire movies ended, with I kind of don't know how to take this other than make promises and break them, kind of a thing. Like, I'm trying to think of the perspective of somebody who would have been, my age when that movie came out, and it straight up feels like, oh, I made a promise to stay away from your daughter. Well, too bad, kind of a thing. And I feel like that was a missed opportunity, which really and truly is what makes my score as low as it is, even though it's not very low. It's not a good philosophy to live by. Unlike every Toby Maguire movie that ended with a quote, and I was going to say something about the Tom Holland ones, but, the Tom Holland ones are... They're not really Spider-Man movies, in my opinion. Aside from the last one, they're not really Spider-Man movies, but that's beside the point. Anyways, that's going to lead me to my final point, which is, my favorite Spider-Man, kind of a thing. To answer the question at the beginning of the video, my favorite Spider-Man is, hands down, Toby Maguire, and it's 100% a nostalgia thing. He was the Spider-Man that I grew up with. He was the Spider-Man that I knew and loved when I was really, really young. And I loved everything about that character. From his awkward quirkiness to his weird emo phase. Everything about it just always puts a smile on my face. However, I don't think he is the best Spider-Man. He is 100% the best Peter Parker, but not the best Spider-Man. I think that award goes to Andrew Garfield. His Spider-Man performance was phenomenal. His Peter Parker was a little to be desired for, but his Spider-Man, in my opinion, is the best Spider-Man live action. I feel like they're going to potentially do something great with Tom Holland's Spider-Man, but until this last movie, it's kind of been a meh thing. Like, I've only watched those movies once, and I've never seen them again. Because they weren't like, oh, I can keep watching these over and over kind of a thing. I never got those vibes from the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. I'm not saying he's a bad Spider-Man or Peter Parker. I'm just saying they don't have a lot of rewatchability. In my opinion, of course. And with that, I will be signing out. See you guys in the next video. Peace.
Are you serious?